People make mistakes. Everybody knows that. Wonder Egg Priority is just one of those big, ugly, stand-out kind of mistakes. The kind of mistake that started out great, but couldn't stop itself from crashing and burning really, really, really hard as the show pushed on. Or was it? You see, today the mistakes that I want to discuss aren't those that Wonder Egg Priority would go on to make, but the ones that were present in the very beginning. In the end, I hope to convince you, at least somewhat, that no, Wonder Egg Priority didn't start good, didn't end good, and wasn't ever good, despite the positive reception that it initially received. But for the uninitiated, Wonder Egg Priority is an animated television series that follows a group of girls on a quest to revive friends of theirs who have died because they committed suicide. In order to revive these suicidal girls, the main cast must fight the trauma of these dead girls who previously killed themselves. And overcoming trauma is a core theme for most of the show. As we watch further, we delve deeper into the trauma of the main cast through these dead girls. Sound good? Well, the show doesn't really capitalize on that great concept that it has. And here's where most reviewers say, up until episode 13, the show was good, but like episode 13, episode 7, episode blah 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 blah. No. Let's take a step back. Instead of throwing up our hands and screaming to the sky, why? Why did we have to have this terrible show? Like, oh, it could have been so good. Let's look at the very first episode and try to understand what makes it good. The first episode begins with I burying an insect at night. Immediately, we, the audience, understand that she's compassionate, but likely troubled. We are then brought into some sort of dream sequence. This part of the episode is great. It does a good job of establishing a mystery and keeping the viewer hooked. We want to know what happens next. We then see scenes that further establish her compassionate, but troubled nature. When we next see I in a dream sequence, she's in school. Several girls are bullying another student, and I has a clear negative reaction that goes way beyond just mere disapproval. At the same time, an announcement comes over the speaker and heavily implies some past event in I's life has caused her trauma related to bullying. Let's look back on what we've watched so far. So far, we've seen a lot of I and her personal issues. And right now, a new obstacle is brought up that could really change how we view I. Her trauma. How I reacts to this trauma and overcomes it could be a big moment for the show to get us invested in the main character, which is really important for the show. How does the show go on to do this? Maybe you're asking, I want to go watch this. Maybe we get some interesting backstory about how I dealt with this problem in the past and how she can overcome her fears in the future. Spoiler alert, the show never goes deeper into this trauma. It never addresses bullying beyond this point. Sure, it might go on further and point back to this moment, but Wonder Egg Priority stops here and says, hey, I ignored the bullying around her, and she really regrets that. And then it stops. It doesn't go any further. Later on, it brings up even more serious topics, such as rape, gender norms, and suicide. But it never goes past the surface of the idea pool. Wonder Egg doesn't ask, hey, why did these things happen? Why don't we stop them? How do we address these problems? It doesn't do any of that. Now, don't get me wrong, it doesn't have to do something revolutionary. It just has to give some idea for the viewer to latch onto, for them to sink their teeth into and be like, yes, this is something that I want to know. Something that I want the show to try to stick into me. Ultimately, this shallow view of all the topics the show brings up drags the show down. It makes each topic feel less important, and therefore, our characters feel less important. It makes the plot feel less important, it makes the show feel less important. And that's really, really bad for the story. And these aren't the only issues either. Later on, we see I is tasked with protecting a dead girl from these bullies, the manifestation of I's trauma. These bullies have now transformed into monsters. And here is my second point. Wonder Egg Priority lacks meaning. This is seen nowhere more explicitly than in the fights. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard the phrase, where there's smoke, there's fire? That question isn't relevant at all to this video, but I thought it was kind of an interesting saying. That's what fights and a lot of the background conversation feels like in Wonder Egg Priority. Fights tend to go like this. The manifestation of someone's trauma appears, such as bullying in this case. It transforms into this big monster, and then you hit that big monster until it dies. The big problem is, the fights look cool, but the start, the middle, the end, they're all the same. And they're not exceptionally good to start, middle, and ends either. The fights don't have any meaning. You can pretty much just skip them all once you've seen the first one. If the fights didn't have any meaning at all, it would have to be, you have to defeat drugs, suicide, and rape in the same way. Just hitting with a big stick. Obviously that's more metaphorical, it's meant to be. But we don't deal with these problems in the same way. And yet Wonder Egg Priority deals with them exactly the same way, just beating them up the whole time. Because of this, there's not a lot of meaning you can extract from Wonder Egg Priority, because everything wants you to take it at the surface level. Another example of why the show really, really, really doesn't want you to look past the surface. Why it wants you to look at a wide variety of topics, but not any really deep into those topics. But let's continue on, because I have one more point, and I think it's the most important point of them all. After these girls are transformed into monsters, we then see flashback of I's friend killing herself. I obviously regrets this, and because of this, she chooses to not protect the dead girl. But because of a flashback, I later goes on to gather the courage and defeat the monster with an attack from her hammer. Which is a big, big, big problem. Why is that a big problem? Because this flashback has essentially revealed that I has always had the power to defeat this monster. Nothing within the episode was necessary for I to defeat that monster. Because this flashback shows before the episode even started. And this keeps happening within the series. This is the third time I said it. But this keeps happening. This isn't confined to the single episode. Characters don't change. They always have the power within them from the beginning of the episode. Or from even way before the beginning of the whole series. And that's a huge problem, because what we end up seeing is the characters at their highest. We never see characters improve, and so they don't seem human. They don't seem like believable characters. And for anyone who's seen the b.a.d.i.c rating scale that I've designed, that's like the most important one that so many of the shows that I've reviewed so far have failed on. These characters don't seem human because they don't improve through the episodes. They improve when we don't see them, essentially. And this is a visual medium. We're supposed to see them, right? Am I insane about that? I don't know. So, those are the three main points. In short, the three biggest problems of Wonder Egg Priority, the characters feeling empty, the lack of meaning, and the shallow way it addresses its issues, make me wonder why people put this as a priority on their watch list. Get X Wonder Egg Priority. Yeah. So, should you watch Wonder Egg Priority? Should you watch it? Yeah, I think you should. Do I think it's good? No, I don't think it's good. I think Wonder Egg Priority has a lot of flaws, and I don't think it's good. I think it's boring, it's slow, so much of it feels skippable. I don't want to rewatch it. I didn't even finish it, if you include episode 13. There's so much about it that I hate. And yet, you still should watch it. Why? Why? That's all I'm hearing right now. That is every single thought I'm hearing. Why should I still watch it? Because while all of that is true, part of understanding what makes a good show good is being able to understand and recognize why a bad show is bad. If we only watch good shows, then we're going to get so used to being fed good material that we're not going to understand why it's good. We're not going to be able to enjoy the good stuff. That's part of the reason why I've only reviewed stuff that I haven't liked so far. And because they're more fun to talk about. And, to be fair, while I've gone on a lot about why I dislike Wonder Egg Priority, there's still a lot that I haven't covered. And there's still some stuff that is good within the show that I didn't cover. Not stuff that I think makes up for its flaws, but still stuff that you can learn from. The end. Not really good ending, so blows my rating on the b.a.d.i.c system. So, frick you. Goodbye. Goodbye, yep.